are 3 weeks in to so many Santas right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
one could say we are the third hoe deep.
Yes.
Ho ho ho.
Sure.
Ho ho ho. Man, are we feeling it? Are we feeling Christmas?
I'm coming back with a vengeance, man. I was gone last week, so I've like decked out. I've got my Back to the Presents Christmas sweater. I've got my hat. You can't see it, but I've also got a Christmas Story Christmas pants on.
Ooh,
Christmas Story pants.
love a good Christmas pant.
Yeah.
And you should have just wore the full pink bunny suit, I think.
Where's he gonna get that?
You know, if I would have had it, I would have worn it for this. Don't think I wouldn't have. If I ain't got no shame. I ain't no shame in my costume
Do
game.
not think he doesn't think
at my
about it.
pictures over the years and see what I've dressed up as to embarrass myself.
True.
Well, I'll
Truly.
tell you what,
Oh, that sounds worse. That sounds bad. It's all fun stuff.
I'm totally
Don't go
feeling
look.
the Christmas holiday spirit, the whole thing. We went with my family tree shopping tonight, so we went and bought my parents. Since my first nephew was born, they've been real tree people and not fake tree people like they were for the entirety of my life.
Well,
You go to that place in Owasso and saw it down yourself?
No,
You're just the
we don't have to
firstborn.
do the sawing, but we do go. There's that little Christmas tree farm in Owasso, and we go there, and we got an 8-foot tree, but they cut a foot off of it because parents' house is that
Hope
tall.
they give you a discount.
But
That's
yeah,
pretty big.
oh, they do. Yeah, they trim a little off, and they give you. I don't know how much it is off, but anyway, it was like here's an 8-foot tree. This one's good, but we don't need it to be 8 feet. We can get it maybe a little shorter. So we did that, and that always makes it feel like, boy, it's about this time. I remember the last 2 or 3 times that we did that. It was also the day of like D23, so I was always like anticipating a big announcement from like Marvel or Star Wars, and so I remember like, oh my gosh, come on, out here in the middle of nowhere, refresh. Oh, there's a new trailer. Oh my goodness. Or whatever, but not this year.
Yeah. No, back when it was fun to await the trailers.
What about you guys as we get closer and closer?
I've been trying to dip my toes into some more Christmas movies, which has been fun. I went to the movies the other day and watched the ever debated Die Hard. And I gotta say, perhaps one day we will review this movie one year.
I feel like we'll have
one
to.
so many Santas.
Christmas theme?
But I will
Christmas
say,
movie.
it's convincing me slowly. It's slowly eating at
Interesting.
me. And there are issues that came up in this viewing that I hadn't really noticed before that made it seem more Christmassy. So despite the fact that many people die and die violently, I think it still might be a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that another day. It
One
was
day.
really fun to see it in the movie theater, I will say.
A lot of people?
Yeah, it was a pretty good crowd, and it's just a good classic action movie. Peak Bruce Willis. It's just fun. Fun time at the movies, no matter what. Then I watched a newer movie on Netflix called Family Switch. You guys
I've seen
hear
this.
about
I've
Family
seen this.
Switch?
Yeah.
I know of it, yes.
Jennifer Garner, Ed Helms play two parents of a couple teenagers and a baby, and yada yada magic happens and they body switch. It's a classic body switch movie set over Christmas. There's one thing about it that pulled it into almost too goofy, and I'm going to share it because I must, because you need to visualize it. And hopefully it will encourage some people to see it. So, the mom switches with the teenage girl, and the dad switches with the teenage boy, and that leaves the baby, who you would think in a movie like this wouldn't switch with anybody, because that's why. The baby switches with the family dog.
I knew you were going to say that.
And so there's a B plot of the entire movie where a CGI baby is running around and barking like a dog, and a CGI dog is sucking on a pacifier and getting his diaper changed.
Why even have the baby?
And that's
Why even have the
and that
baby?
was unfortunate because the family dynamic in the A plot, I was like, okay, I like a classic, it's like 13 going on 30 meets Big meets all
Freaky
these
Friday.
other, yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you need a good streaming family movie for Christmas, you could do worse. You could do better though.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Meanwhile, I watched. I was able to finally get Jack to watch some of the other classic Christmas specials. We watched Frosty the Snowman, which is way more boring than I remember it being. And then but he liked it well enough. And then we watched the Grinch. We watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the '66 special, which he was really in. He was really feeling. Although he did not get the Who's very well. He was like, "What are they doing? Where's the Grinch?" It's like they're singing. He'll be here. Don't worry. But
Kids love the Grinch.
Now I think his daycare teacher has already shown it to him because when Max showed up, he goes, "It's Max," and I was like, "Okay, something's going on
He looks
here."
like a Max.
We didn't mention
Everybody
that
loves Max. That's what I said.
during our Grinch podcast. We didn't mention that Josh's dog is named Max
No, we didn't. No,
after
we
the
didn't.
Grinch.
I don't
But
know.
no,
if
so that's
true,
what I've been
actually.
doing. I wish I could say I was watching more movies and more Christmas movies right now, but I just haven't had the full time.
Yeah, just not there yet. Oh, you froze it.
Listen, in my COVID fever dream, I've caught up on Christmas movies. I've caught up on 2023 movies. I've caught up on movies I've never seen before. I've seen movies other people have recommended. I've seen so many things, I don't even know where to start. So, Scrooged, El Camino Christmas. I watched Good Burger 2
Yes.
because I was sick and
We need to
dying,
talk-
and that was when you should watch that
yeah,
movie.
Yeah, because it might finish you off.
Yeah. Last Christmas, Return to Me, Happiest Season, Reindeer Games I saw, unfortunately. May, December, hey, that movie exists. I finally watched Across the Spider-Verse. It blew my mind like everybody else's. I watched Five Nights at Freddy's, which is enjoyable, but like, hey, whatever, if you miss it, you're not going to miss much. American Symphony is a beautiful look at John Baptiste and his incredible relationship and his genius. The Little Things I rewatched, and it was still bad. Godzilla vs.
would you
Kong was
rewatch-
incredibly fun.
Why would you rewatch the little things?
He had COVID. Nothing makes
Because
sense.
I had nothing to do.
Or were you trying to make it worse?
And then I watched Office Christmas Party. So there, I think I've caught up on everything now.
Okay, and Garrett, tell me. I'm hoping because I watched Good Burger 2 as well.
Yeah.
Please tell me for you it was a waste of time because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, I was really, it was unfortunate. You know, I put it in my ever coveted 1.5, which is not good but entertaining,
That's
but
what I
that's
gave it
just
too.
out of pure respect. You know, it's really not good.
Did you watch it,
It was
Josh?
really quite unfortunate.
Not yet, but now I'm kind of like, if you both didn't like it,
It's a bad sign.
I feel like it has to be really bad for Garrett not to like it.
Yeah, because
I mean,
Garrett,
you come
You know,
baked
there was
in
just-
with.
It just seemed like it was no thought. It was like, there was no story. You know, the Good Burger's got a story. It can touch you in your heart if you're in the right
I
moment.
do kind of feel
And
like
this one did not.
it
it
felt
seems like something that was kind of like written over a weekend, and they were like, "Hey, we're friends again."
Basically.
it
Yeah.
feels like a reunion in a lot of ways. Like there are cameos, they are fun to an extent. It's
Yeah.
nice to see some of these people
Yeah.
again. There's like all that cameos, a bunch of SNL cast members make appearances, but it just feels. I have no idea who it's for, because like
No,
it doesn't feel
same.
like it's like it doesn't feel like it lands with.
It's not for me.
It doesn't like, we were the original audience. It doesn't feel like it lands with us. I don't think kids would have fun watching it today. So
No.
you know, I mean, and I love Keenan, and I have loved Kel,
And I respect Kel.
Yeah.
but they couldn't. They
I love them both.
They couldn't save it.
Wow.
No, it
Okay.
was,
Well,
it
if I
was
do
a-
watch
it was
it,
a
I
bit
will
unfortunate.
let you all know. We need to get into the show though.
Oh, yes.
However, first, I do want to remind everybody to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go check that out. So many sequels on YouTube. You can subscribe there, and you will get full episodes of the show, as well as clips and whatever other fun stuff we want to throw on there as we start to explore YouTube a little more. Because why not?
Currently up to 106 on subscribers, so we are
Oh.
so close to our goal of 112 by the end of the year.
Yeah. David really has his heart set on 112, so do not give him a coal in his
Yes.
stocking.
Look,
Subscribe to the
I
channel.
ask for so little.
Yeah.
You do.
I just want 112 subscribers, and I want a new Flash movie.
A Reese's and a Dr. Pepper. Oh.
And I do want a Reese's in the Dr.
Yeah, that goes without saying. All right. Well, so this week we are going to talk about A Christmas Story, a classic Christmas movie that has become even more classic with the traditional Turner Network, Turner Cable Network suite, just like playing it everywhere for the 24-hour marathon. So how, though, David, did this movie do when it came out? I'm really curious to know what the reception was like before it became the 24-hour movie that we know today.
Well, as you know, so this movie came out November 18th of 1983. So well before either any of us were even born. Before I think before my parents even got married is when this movie came out. And it was so I know a little bit of its origin, and I'll get into that later, how it finally got made. But 1983 it comes out, and it's so different, 1983 versus 2023, when you think about how movies were released and how they were consumed. Because I'm going to read you some of these numbers, and they're all going to sound abysmal. But in 1983 was a very different time. So that weekend, A Christmas Story opened in the number 3 spot with $2 million opening weekend. It was in 886 theaters. In the number 1 spot that weekend was Amityville 3D, which brought in, are you ready? $2.3 million. So just a $300,000.
These are some 2020 numbers.
Sorry. That was only in 1,200 theaters. The Big Chill was at number 2. James Bond's Never Say Never Again was at number 4 with 1.8 in its 7th weekend. And then at number 5, you had A Night in Heaven, which is like a dance movie of some sort. So it was a pretty mild weekend.
Sounds boring.
If you think of it today, like your top 5 movies all made between 1.8 and 2.3 million dollars, and this was Thanksgiving weekend. So the Christmas Story would do a little bit better going into the Thanksgiving holiday. It improved 90% in its second weekend to 3.9 million. And then it finished its run with $19.2 million in the United States. That was good enough for the number 39 spot in the United States that year. Since then, it has gotten a few re-releases, like I think 5 re-releases, usually around Christmas. It did get an international release one year and made a couple $1,000. 1983. So the number 1 movie in 1983, you might be able to guess this. It's a former So Many Sequels episode. It's Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. We have a review up for that right now. The number 2 movie that year was Terms of Endearment. And those 2 movies are the only movies to make more than $100 million in 1983. Quite a far cry from this year, where I think something like 15 to 18, and a really far cry from like 2019, when like 28 movies made over $100 million. But the max theaters for Star Wars Return of the Jedi was 1,700 theaters. Can you imagine today when movies are in 4,500 theaters? Like, how much more money could these movies have made if the infrastructure had been as big as it is today?
You know, there's a lot more people.
There are more people?
Than there was in 1983.
More
people don't think about
access.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3 movie that year was Flashdance with $92 million. Trading Places, starring Eddie Murphy, came in at the number 4 spot with $90 million. And War Games was number 5 with $79.5 million. Some other movies, I'll just run through some other movies from that year. Risky Business, Mr. Mom, National Lampoon's Vacation, Superman 3, another 1983 movie that we have done. So that's our 83 list, is Superman 3, which is an awful movie, but boy, is it fun. Star Wars, and now we'll be doing A Christmas Story. This was also the year of Jaws 3D. So there you go. So that's your rundown. It was a very different time, and these numbers are what's been reported over time, but they may have made more. It's kind of hard to tell because they did leave movies in theaters for like a year at that point. So,
wow,
never really know.
Wow, interesting look. It almost feels like it just was bleak. It feels bleak to me.
It was, and this was it wasn't until like the mid to late 90s that they started even doing international releases for most movies.
Yeah.
So things were just different. Things were not marketed for a worldwide audience. So you could have something as specific as A Little Boy's Christmas in 1940.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Let's go then. A Christmas Story. The comic mishaps and adventures of a young boy named Ralph, trying to convince his parents, teachers, and Santa that a Red Ryder BB gun really is the perfect gift for the 1940s. Garrett, this was your pick for this month, so why? Tell us why you picked A Christmas Story.
You know, Christmas Story is a movie that I'm pretty sure everybody's aware of. Whether or not they enjoy it is one thing or another. We'll get into that later. But for me, this was the quintessential. This was my Christmas movie. You know, growing up, there were 3 movies that we watched as a family together. It was A Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, and Santa Claus, or the Santa Claus, or the Polar Express, depending on the time, right? So this was one of the big 3. We would watch it every Christmas Eve. And Christmas Eve was, we'd spend some time with my family, come back home, watch this, get ready for Santa to have come and brought us all our presents in the morning, right? So you have that memory in those moments, and that's why this movie is on this poster right here and on my pants as well. But I just always grew up watching it, and it's one of those where you watch it every year, much like we talked about in Christmas Vacation. For me, I see new things every single time, and so I grow old with this story, and it feels fun and it feels familiar. And over time, I just have grown to appreciate so much of it. So whether it's, you know, Ralphie and his just passion for this Red Ryder BB gun, and his, like, he knows this is what he wants, and just every moment he's told no. And then that final moment when he gets it. And then you see his dad whenever he gets to see his son opening up this present, and like the excitement that his dad shows throughout this whole thing, and the performance that each person gives, and the over-the-top moments, and they just lean into every moment, and it provides so much joy, and it's silly, and it's fun, and the moments have kind of become bigger than the story. But I think if you actually watch it, it's just a sweet, wholesome, middle-class family story, and I really just enjoy that.
David, what are your initial thoughts? Where do you come to this movie from?
You know, a few weeks ago we talked about, when we did our introductions, I said that it was going to be up to this podcast to make me love this movie again. Because I do remember watching it, and my grandparents laughing, and my mom and dad laughing, and this, that, you know, I didn't, you know, and talking about the funny parts. But, you know, the Turner Classic Movies Marathon, and I know what you're thinking, David, they didn't make you watch it. But, of course, they did make me watch it, because someone in the family was like, oh, let's put that on. And so it's on in the background. And I told you, you know, you fall asleep, and you know, they're getting ready for, you know, they're about to take that big, you know, they go to class, and he's got to write his thing. Oh, man, I can't wait to get my thing, do my theme. And then you fall asleep, and then you wake up, and you're back before you fell asleep, and now you have to watch more of the movie?
You're in a time loop, a Christmas Story time loop.
It was just like, it was eternal. And it really, I think it killed a lot of the stuff for me. But watching it this time, after having avoided it for years now, watching it this time, seeing it in order, and seeing it, you know, all laid out, I feel like it's a movie that's not as good as the sum of its parts, to use sort of a cliche phrase. I think there's a lot of good bits in it, but I don't know if the overall movie for me is as good as any of those individual moments. If that makes any sense. There are times I'm entertained. There are times I'm really...
No, it does. I mean, this is it is kind of a series of vignettes. I think it's described that way by many.
And there are times I'm entertained, and there are times I'm annoyed, you know, and we'll get into some of those different aspects in a bit, but like, it does feel like one of those films, though, that is just synonymous with this time period. And maybe that's because it became such a cult classic in a lot of ways. Maybe that's because it's just an inherently, it's a kid's story told from a parent's told from an adult's point of view, you know. One of my favorite movies, Sandlot, is often called the summer Christmas story because of that, you know, adult narration.
Never heard that, but I find it interesting.
It is interesting, you know, because if you look at it, it's an adult narrating their childhood from a certain point of view and a special thing that happened to them, but it's all about baseball in the summer with your friends instead of Christmas with your, you know, and it's kind of like, there's not really like a coherent plot to Sandlot until they get to, you know, like, oh, I just beamed the baseball over the fence. It's all kind of kid at play. And this is kind of the same thing. There's nothing really holding everything together except for the desire for this Red Ryder BB gun. But anyway, I really kind of land in the middle on this movie because I am entertained, but I'm also kind of annoyed sometimes. So I don't want to say anything too bad, but I also can't say anything too great. So
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of validity to what you said about the 24-hour thing kind of grinding on you after time. I went through a period of time where when I worked at Blockbuster, because I'm old enough to have done that somehow, the movie Elf was completely ruined for me for years because it was the only thing they would let us play on the Blu-ray player in the store. And so I watched Elf countless times a night for an entire Christmas season. So, if you are in that situation where you just were force-fed A Christmas Story as a kid so much, I can see why it would be a problem. I think that's kind of, like, I have a little bit of that. I don't have too much, though. I think where I come to it from is that I didn't really have a connection to it growing up. This wasn't in, like, our family rotation of Christmas movies. It was just kind of, like, on the outskirts, where I really don't remember watching it more than maybe a couple times as a child. So I just never had the strong connection to it that a lot of other people do. And then I think when it became the movie that played on TV all the time, I was like, this one, I don't even have a connection to this one. Why don't you play something else? So that said, I do think it's pretty good, even though I don't really find myself enjoying it. I don't really think that's always the movie's fault. I think it's just maybe not something I can connect with well. I mean, it is set in the 40s. Like, a lot of kids our age and younger won't relate to those aspects. But there's still some parts of it that's fun, and a lot of it is what y'all pointed out, these smaller moments that kind of make up for where the overarching story might be a little weak. There's a lot of great scenes in this, a lot of great classic lines that I enjoy. That said, it's going to sound like I'm roasting this movie sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
But it comes from a place of love in some instances.
Mm-hmm. It's like our relationship
and also
with Andrew.
just a critique of the times in others, so I'm excited.
It's like our relationship with Andrew, like, you love him, but it's a
Former
little fun
disgraced.
to roast him.
You gotta roast.
Yeah. And even when I was watching this as someone who is obviously the hardcore fan of this movie, even I said this has become and is now a movie of moments. Those scenes, those iconic moments, the flick and his tongue on the ice, him in the bunny suit, the Santa kicking him in the face, all of those things that the leg lamp, everything has just become kind of a cartoon of itself. And so I totally get where this movie is worth the roasting and worthy of kind of, whatever banter it has received. That's why I think Christmas movies are always funny, because it does really depend on when you attached to it. And like I said, I watch this movie every year just once. I didn't get necessarily caught in the 24-hour loop. And for me, this movie signified it was Christmas because it was my Christmas Eve movie. So I have that extra connection to it. But, for me, I always like the performance from Darren McGavin as the dad. He seems like he's such a good dad for the time frame. He seems like he is really caring about his kids. He's a big, dumb oaf. And, like, the mother also controls that family. And, there are moments where she is clearly in charge. And I just like the performances that they play. And they can give those while also going so over the top in those fantasy scenes that Ralphie creates. For me specifically, the soap poison scene is just one of my absolute favorites because of the wailing that they just commit to whenever they realize they have poisoned him with the live boy. Oh, no! It's just,
what have we done?
Yeah. And then he just looks with his blind sunglasses and smiling into the camera. I think those
guilt warms me.
Yeah, those cheesy moments, those cheesy elements that they really lean into is where the charm for me from this movie comes from.
For sure. But
yeah,
I do want to say though, I have to lead with this.
Okay.
These kids are freaking obnoxious. Like there was a
Just like
there was
all
a
the kids,
designer-
or the Ralphie and his brother.
Ralphie's brother is probably the
Ralphie's
king
brother's
of
the worst child
obnoxiousness
ever
in this.
born.
However, they are all. I was Farkas in this. I wanted to beat them all up. They were so annoying. I was like, oh gosh, just shut up for 2 minutes. At the same time, they're kids. What are you gonna do? But his little brother and the scene where he has to eat and he's a little piggy and all that. And even
Look,
before that, it's just,
Yeah, I got to
was
talk
just like,
about
this
that
kid-
because I wrote that scene down. This is where I'm like, I don't know about these parents sometimes, because Mommy's little piggy was absolutely disgusting, abhorrent, inexcusable dinner table behavior for a mother to encourage, especially in the 1940s. What the hell? They talk about how we don't have manners. Outrageous.
the only way
That
to
little
get
boy
great-
just slammed his face in his plate,
making a
oinking.
huge mess.
Huge mess.
And
the mom's encouraging it.
mouth open.
Yeah.
And the dad,
That's
look on his face, just like, good lord.
And that's what I mean by Darren McGavin. He's such a good actor in this movie. Every turn he, for me, has delivered in one way or another.
So
Go ahead,
he
David.
has this great he has this great twist between being this kind of like gleeful dope and also just the most put upon man in all of humankind. Like nobody does put upon like the dad in
truly.
Christmas, where he's just like
Everything's
He's
a
just-
chore.
But there were two things that stood out to me about this movie this time around. One, it feels weird to know that it was set in 1940, because as one, it kind of comes out in the 80s, so part of your brain wants to think, oh, this is from the 80s. But then you think, oh, well, he's talking about being a kid, so it must be like 1955, 1952. No, it's 1940. This movie takes place before America's entry into World War I think. And it explains why there are multiple instances of the Wizard of Oz and the Wicked Witch, because that movie just came out for these kids. That's why they're running around the mall as the Wicked Witch. I remember as a kid being like, why are they there? But it's wild to think that the setting of this movie is we're approaching so ways off. We're approaching it being almost 100 years old. This look back in American history.
Why you gotta say that? No.
I mean, we're closer. I mean, right now we're close to like 85 years or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
wild. It was a completely different time frame, and that is a strange perspective. I don't necessarily think I always knew it was the 40s. I always assumed it was the 50s, even as many times as I've watched it.
And because it makes a certain amount of sense, because we've talked about before the idea of the 30-year gap of like as creative people, as directors and writers, they reach their 30s. That's when they start getting to be in charge, and so they write about the time period that they're nostalgic for, which is about when they were a kid, when they were growing up. So you have a lot of movies from the 80s, whether it's Clue, Back to the Future, set in that take place in the 50s at some point, because that's when they remember being a kid. This one is a little older. This one goes all the way back to 1940, but it's because it's based on this specific person.
Yeah, it's based on a book.
Something I realized for the first time during this viewing, I think contributes to why I maybe am like slightly turned off by it. I'm like, I don't know about this. And it's the same reason why I have an odd feeling about Peanuts. Not the food, but the comic strip.
Yeah.
And it is that Ralphie is Charlie Brown. Like, almost to a T. Everything around him sucks for no reason, but he just keeps pushing through anyway, convinced he's gonna make it. But, like, everything around him sucks. He's getting
Everybody's
busted
out
by
to
his
get him.
parents for dumb stuff. Randy's just existing around him in the worst ways. School sucks. He just wants this gun. And no one will leave him alone.
Yes.
And so
He's like,
to see him
All
finally
that was
snap
missing-
at the end is what I've
Yeah.
always wanted to see Charlie Brown do.
yeah. The only thing missing is him opening up a bag and saying, "I got a rock." Like he is. I remember, I remember seeing the very first Peanut strip, and Charlie Brown's not even necessarily the main character in it. He kind of is, but these two kids are watching Charlie Brown walk by, and one of them goes, "There's Charlie Brown, good old Charlie Brown." And the last panel goes, "God, how I hate him."
Well, see, Charlie Brown is depressing. Peanuts are fun, and Ralphie is kind of depressing.
He is. No, Ralphie's his own worst enemy at times.
No, Ralphie has so much confidence, guys. Yeah. He believes with all of his heart that he is going to get this. And every time he puts his effort into this, because this is what he believes in. Mm-hmm. This is what he dreams of. This is the meaning of Christmas from a kid's perspective of that age. You don't remember a time that you wanted a Christmas gift so hard that you would do anything to make it happen? He is full of hope throughout this whole movie, despite the fact that these people are telling him he'll shoot his eye out every single time, despite the fact that he got a C+ on a theme that he bribed her with a fruit basket. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But did you see him walking back? He gave her the over the shoulder like, "Hey, I know you're gonna like that pineapple." Like, he had swagger the whole time.
He was
and
confident.
He knew. And that he was going to get it.
Charlie Brown thought he was going to kick that football every time too. That's all I'm saying.
But he got it in the end. He got his Red Ryder. He got his Red Ryder. It paid off in that moment.
Ralphie, despite the fact that he looks like a baby Glenn Beck, was committed to the idea that he was going to get that Red Ryder BB gun, and he tried every avenue, planting the magazines, writing the theme. He thought this is all going to work out. However, much like Charlie Brown,
though? What happened immediately?
Getting in his own way.
He shot himself in the face.
And that come down is so funny. To me, it is hilarious because it builds it, and that's what he wants every time. And then it's like he's so excited, and he's living his fantasy of Black Bart that we've already seen, and he's like, "Boom! Oh my God, I shot my eye out!" For me, I also think that if you watch this over time, and again, it tells how many times I've seen this movie, but you look at it from a kid's perspective of this is what I imagine, it's like to have that thing. But then you also look at it from the point of view as older Ralphie telling this story. What a storyteller this man is, right? Mm-hmm. I look at him telling this story as he's recounting it to his family of, here's one of my favorite Christmas stories, and all of these fantasies within the story that he's telling, it's woven so wonderfully. And as somebody who's told this story over time, and all of these moments build to this crescendo of this family Christmas, mm-hmm. at the end of the day, for me, this is what, we talked a little bit about commercialism in The Grinch, and this you see this here, but you also have that, for me, that family element. At the end of the day, everything came crashing and burning, and they all just spent Christmas together. He got his Red Ryder BB gun, but everything else was like, crazy and hectic and wild, but the whole family was just trying to hold it together that Christmas. And so for me, I like that part too.
Yeah, this was sort of the infancy, in terms of the United States, the infancy of commercialism, really.
Hey, Ralphie got his first taste of capitalism with that decoder freaking commercial.
He did.
What a genuinely ripoff.
Genuinely a very funny scene because of the anticipation, and he's like, oh, and he's like just getting so excited, but he doesn't read it until he gets all the way done. Be sure to, what is it? It's like the president could be in jeopardy or something like that.
He was stupid for thinking that.
The disappointment, man. Can I tell a quick story? I want to get back to some of our favorite scenes in just a minute. Can I tell a little story about how this movie got made?
Sure.
Please.
As you can see from the beginning, it's based on a book, In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, written by
great title,
Gene Shepard. It is a great.
Better title than A Christmas Story.
It's true. I wonder if the Christmas section is only a part of it, but it is written and narrated. The movie's narrated by Gene Shepard, so he's telling his own story here. And directed by Bob Clark. Well, apparently, the story I read was that Bob Clark heard a radio version, essentially, of a reading of sections of this book by Gene Shepard on a local radio program that while he was driving around. And he was so enraptured by Shepard's storytelling that he just kept driving around his house, refusing to go in, so he could keep listening to the thing, right? And he said, I got to make this a movie. It's going to be... This is what I want to do. Like, if I get to make one movie the rest of my life, I want it to be this. Well, studios he went to weren't interested. One studio finally said, okay, we will let you, we'll talk about maybe something else, but we really want you to make this low budget R-rated comedy for us. And if you do that, we can talk later, right? So Bob Clark went on and made Porky's. And because of the standout success of Porky's and Porky's 2, they said, he said, can I make a Christmas story? And they said, sure, why not? You've made a lot of money for us. Go make a Christmas story. So we owe Porky's and its rabid success for giving us a Christmas story.
Who'd have thunk? Who
would have thought, indeed. So that's just a little interesting trivia for you, if you will, that I read about while researching this movie.
Very cool. So I've talked about, this connections to me. Are there any moments that stood out to you guys that you enjoyed? Again, we talked about this being moments that have taken over, pop culture at this point in time. But, what ones have we not talked about that you may or may not have opinions on?
Well, I got to talk about one specifically, and it's a twofold. It's the fudge. It's the one.
I got something to say about the fudge too.
It's his dad's fault that the thing got spilled to begin with.
It is.
And he says,
it's always the dad's fault.
Fudge. Only I didn't say fudge. And it's very relatable. I think we've all accidentally said that first bad word in front of mom and dad. And it never goes well. But
y'all know, do y'all remember which one, what you said? Because I remember.
I'm going to sound like such a nerd. My family's going to sound so much tamer than yours, I bet.
No.
Because my mom got really mad because I said pissed. And she was like, "You're not say that." And Dad, I do remember the first time I said damn it in front of my dad. We were on the golf course. And I went back and I smash it and I just slice it off into the middle of nowhere. And I go, damn it. And my dad goes, David, civilized people don't talk like that.
Oh, sure they do.
And I just went, I know, I'm sorry. I didn't really get in big trouble, but I just remember the phrasing of that.
See, I specifically meant the fudge, and mine is tame because it was a complete accident. It's very stupid, and it involves me in the car asking too quickly, my head thinking before I spoke, if we could go eat dinner at Rudfuckers.
That'll get you in trouble every time. They used to have a shirt that said that.
It was very funny, but yeah, it was a complete accident. Anyway, I had to derail for that. Go back to the fudge. I
have one too because I remember I've heard this story from my mom many a times. I was a child and I said, "Hey mom, if I say a bad word but I don't know it's a bad word, will I get in trouble?" And she said, "Well, what word?" And I said, "Fudge." And she said, "Yeah, well, that's about the worst one you could say, son." And
pretty much, pretty up there.
And I think I said, "Okay." I knew then.
Now I know.
I think I might have been almost 18 before I actually said the F word in front of my parents, so that worked out.
Smart.
But
anyway, we derailed, David. You were talking about fudging.
So the part that gets me, and obviously, you can't change time, but I had to just shake my head at Ralphie because they ask him, where'd you learn that word? And first of all, Mom, it's obvious who he learned it from. Have you heard your husband down there with the furnace?
Mm-hmm.
But Ralphie panics and says to one of his good friends and gets his best friend a butt whooping. And I just started thinking, Ralphie, why wouldn't you just say Farkas?
Bad friend.
The bully. Get him in trouble. If his parents care, get Farkas in trouble. You're going to get beat up every day anyway by Farkas. You might as well get his butt busted the night before. You know what I mean? So I just remember being so frustrated that because you got to be better with your lies, Ralphie. You got to think. Anyway, I always just felt bad because it was his dad knocks the thing over. It's not Ralphie's fault.
Yes, and then his dad decides to be a total narc about it. And he's the one who tells on Ralphie to his mom and then gets his mouth washed out with soap. Now, he could have had a nice father-son bonding moment where he was like, hey, buddy, I know why you said that. We can't say that. Don't ever say that again. But it's our secret.
But he got that moment.
But he decided to be a narc.
He got that moment later. No, he got that moment later with his mom, though. Do you remember that? Whenever he was so worried.
Washed out.
I know, but still, he was so worried that his dad was going to tear him up, and then mom was like, no, it's fine. And then it was like, things were different for me and my mom after that.
Yeah. Two things about that. One, have you guys ever had your mouth soaped? Did you have your mouth soaped as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I had a babysitter
I
who
always
did it.
thought-
And I also learned that my parents didn't know that happened until I told them as an adult. I said, did you know that she did that? She said, no.
No. You never had your mouth soaped, Josh?
I always thought that was only in the movies.
No,
Never heard of that in real life.
My mom didn't do the bar of soap. What she would do is she would take the squirt and she would squirt it into her hands and then she would rub it on my lips. So I didn't have to have the bar like in my mouth or anything. She'd just rub it on my lips, and gosh, it was awful. It was just
That's
like
not fun.
But it wasn't going to kill it, and I didn't go
Well,
blind.
no, it's probably
Or
non-toxic
did
anyway.
So
That's when you go, strawberry.
you're not supposed to swallow it or anything like that. But it was but I think it was fine. I'd take that over the spanking, honestly. That was worse. Two. So Garrett, you mentioned it a little bit, which was his mom kind of let him off the hook after his big fight with Farkas. So I'm of two minds of this, because I don't think that you should be getting into fights. But at the same time, when you have someone like Farkas, who is like a perennial bully, eventually you got to do something to stand up to him. So I'm curious, have you guys ever gotten into a fight?
No.
I have never struck back. Let me say that. I've been hit a couple times. Well, I'm not a fighter. I'm better than that.
Aside from tussles with my brothers.
Well, those don't count. Yeah, I've done that.
I've been in one real fight, and my mom got scared. She moved me and my auntie and uncle in Bel Air, but it was a situation where it's actually one of my parents' favorite stories in some ways. My parents were out of town because my dad was getting his doctorate, and so I was staying with my aunt and uncle, my great aunt and uncle, and I was on the basketball court in school. It was recess or something, and there's this one kid. I'm not going to say his name. There was this one kid who, honestly, he was a bully and a jerk to me and almost everybody in our class. For years. He was so bad that the parents did not want him on their baseball, like when they would do sports. He would have to be on somebody's baseball team or basketball team. The parents didn't want him because he's just a snot. And he was bigger than everybody else. He was like 6'1" in 5th grade or whatever. So, I mean, he was just a bad kid at the time. And I got into a shoving match with a different friend of mine because of a hard foul. And we're pushing. And then this guy, he comes over and he tackles me, knocks me down, and keeps shoving me back onto the ground. And I stood up and I tried to punch him in the stomach. He caught my hand and twisted, and then I went back fist right to his head. And at that point, the fight was broken up by Mrs. Coach Britt, and I was taken to the office, and he was taken to the office, and we were both suspended. And so my great aunt, I felt so bad for her. She had to call my parents while my dad was accepting a doctorate and say, David got suspended at school. But the vice principal thanked me because he also did not like that kid. It was a very interesting. My parents weren't that mad. I stayed home, played Ratchet.
Sound like the vice principal should have done something about it a long time ago.
I'll tell you what.
He needed a kid to do his dirty work.
Do work for him. I mean, he had suspended. I mean, Anthony was. He was frequently suspended.
Ooh.
David had to be the muscle.
He was frequently
Bleep it,
suspended.
Josh.
So it was kind of a situation where I was a good kid who snapped. I was Ralphie, and the other kid, he was always getting suspended for something or another. So, but I was suspended for 2 days. I stayed home, played Ratchet and Clank, and it was one of the best days of my life. Wow. End of story. Only fight I've ever been in. But it's very, very akin to Ralphie's situation, where I've had enough of this. I've had a bad day. Not today.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you explained that story, because for the viewers and the listeners, we've been keeping this Google Doc to go along with, and David, your note on there says the fight with Farkas. Have y'all ever been in a fight? And I read that initially as you critiquing the fight, as if you thought it was like a badly choreographed fight. And for 2 days, I've been like, what the hell's he going to say about this fight? But you meant have us, ever been in a fight? Too. Okay, now I understand.
And I had a feeling the answer was no. But yeah, that actually let's go. Let's run with that. Who was the fight choreographer on this? It's like a tackle and then he's just wailing.
Nah, that's how kid fights go. I've seen them. I've seen too many.
What really sells it for me is he sits up, his mom pulls him up, and he's just crying. He's just crying. And having been in one fight in 7th grade, I related to that because I remember after the moment, the adrenaline of being in that kind of situation gets to you quite a bit. And you're just like shaking to an extent. So I mean, for a mom in that situation coming in, you understand why she's like, no, Ralphie, it's okay. Like, it's okay. It's very nice. It's a comforting part of the movie in a lot of ways. Anyway, I won't drag that out for too much longer because I know we have some other things. We want to talk about this weird Santa.
Another big part of the movie to me is the mall scene where Ralphie and Randy get to go see Santa at the mall, and he gets to ask him for the Red Ryder BB gun. And this whole time I'm thinking, this is again a moment where I'm like, this Charlie Brown mother effer cannot even find a nice Santa Claus. Like the mall Santa is so mean to all the kids, and the elf is like throwing them down the slide.
Yeah,
listen,
I wish
it made me think Bad Santa. Made me think of Bad Santa vibes, where Billy Bob Thornton is just ready to get out the store. I see that Christmas Eve, these people want to get home. They don't want to be having these kids sitting on their lap no more.
He's Santa. That's no excuse. I just was like, man, poor Ralphie. He really does get the short end of every stick.
Every stick. He gets there to get in line, and they go, this is where the line starts. It ends back there.
Yeah, this grown man chastising a child for his place in line is just like, oh, poor Ralphie. Everyone's mean to you.
And, they do capture, weirdly enough, the sensation of you're going to go meet who you think is Santa, with all the kids sort of freezing up and having to be dragged on by Angry Elf number 2. Bad Santa would have been a more apt comparison if, like, he had cursed out the kid. Like, you'll shoot your eye out, kid. Or something like that. But they brought that line back. He's been talking about, it's the mom's number one thing. You'll shoot your eye out, and then the teacher says it, and then Santa says it. So at that point, Ralphie's utterly defeated.
Well, like, I get it. I get why they have to have him be a mean Santa, because hearing Santa say that is like, yeah, that's the death shot. That's like, there's no way I'm getting it if Santa said it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel, I wish that I had a Santa with a slide, though, because that would have been part of the reason to go up there and see Santa.
The Santa setup
go down a big slide
was way cooler than he was.
Oh, this was something my wife and I talked about, too, of like, Christmas does feel different now in 2023 than I feel like it did when I was a little kid. And I think a big part of that is the sort of slow death of the mall. And when I was a kid, when it was Christmas time, my mom would have to take me with her to go to the mall to go shopping for Christmas presents, because their online shopping was not what it was now. So you had to go to the mall, and the mall was decked. Everything looked like it was covered in snow and candy canes, and Santa was in the corner. That was a big part of what made it feel like Christmas, was all that commercialism.
Hey, you're welcome to drive the Woodland Hills Mall.
With Christmas decor.
La 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 la
la. The malls are the malls still full this time of year?
Oh, Woodland Hills is, yeah, for sure. That place doesn't exist in the real world. It's always busy. It's not like Promenade, which doesn't exist anymore. We're down to one mall, and it is the one that is maintained busyness.
Yeah, the one that still has like a sense of stores are there.
Yeah, they're not. It's been a minute since I've gone in there, but they're not they're pretty full, I think. I don't think they have a lot of empty storefronts. And they're building onto it. Yeah, some malls are still making it. But you're right. There is something iconic about the mall Santa experience that I don't know if kids get today. Because, Elf has a great mall Santa scene. Lots of movies have great mall Santa scenes. And now, I will say there's more places now to take kids to see Santa. I always laugh every time I see the one at Bass Pro. There's always a Santa at Bass Pro. Well, we laugh, but Santa, like it's like the coolest setup in the back. Like that's a legit Santa at Bass Pro.
Yeah, I mean it's well, I mean if the one here in Oklahoma is huge, or the ones here in Oklahoma are like big time deals.
Right.
This year, you know, we took my son to see Santa, and it was at the Christmas shoot in Sapulpa. Like, so you're seeing more of that type of stuff, I think, pop up to replace the existence of those sort of like store experiences that were really big. Some of that is just the way that, you know, malls and big department store things have sort of crumbled, but also some of that is just, you know, other ways to get around it. I don't know.
Nah, the whole point of the Christmas shoot is to get you to shop in their local stores.
Which is a
Still
valid...
on that front.
I'm not saying that it's a problem. I'm saying that I'm encouraging it. Bring out people to shop at the local stores on your main street. That's what you
it's
should
important
do.
to shop local, people. You should shop local.
I did technically buy some hot chocolate, and I bought a cold bottle of Coca-Cola from a candy store. I forget the name of the store. But as we wind down here, I do want to ask, what was the big toy for you? I think we may have talked about this in the past, but what was the big toy for you at Christmas as a kid?
I got the Power Rangers Transformer full setup with the stickers in each individual one, and I tell you what, my dad said that he spent the entire night putting on stickers on them things, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's
because I had a lot of fun with it.
That's the extra mile of a parent before Christmas, is when they actually do the assembly and the stickers and all that stuff. I'm gonna go out of sort of. I don't remember really asking for this, but you know, sometimes your parents, they just like, they pay attention to what you want, what you like. I was really into hockey when I was like between 7 and 10, mostly because of the Mighty Ducks. And so I was like, I was really into hockey. My dad often said that if we had lived in like a colder climate state, he might have put me in hockey. But anyway, my parents got me this like street hockey foosball kind of combo set that had like,
was it orange?
There was like, there was like a brick thing where you put the metal balls in the top and they would go boom and shoot out, and then you start doing your joysticks and stuff. And it was a really, like, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. I was like, what is this? Like, it was like my mind had never imagined such a thing. But and the little guys could come off, and then you could just play with them as figures. Anyway, that's one. Josh, do you have any big toys you remember?
Nintendo 64.
That's so much better. I mean, I did get a PS2 one year, but that's so much better.
That was the holy grail Christmas present that I remember. And I pulled it up just to look at it and see it again. Man, you know that thing had a whopping 4 megabytes of memory?
Oh.
Ooh, 4 megabytes.
You could play anything you wanted.
The storage with that expandable game pack could go up to 64 megabits.
I mean,
which is like half a song.
You never need to buy another. You never need to buy another one.
Well, yeah. Super Mario 64 was my jam when that came out. I think it's the game I got that came with it. I played that to death. I love that in 64. So I understand. That is my Red Ryder BB gun, and it didn't involve me even shooting my eye out.
It's true. I mean, to an extent, the first Pokemon games were that for me too. Where it was like, I asked like all that build up. Like, I just want. Daniel, I think, wanted Pokemon Blue, and I wanted Pokemon Red, and we just wanted it, and we ended up getting this crazy situation where both of our grandparents individually bought them.
Oh, fun!
So I got Pokemon Red from one of my grandparents, and I also got Pokemon Blue from my other grandparent. And I was like, I got both, and then Daniel got the alternate situation. They had both misinterpreted which one. You know, something went wrong, but we both got both, so we can both.
We can both play both
and get all the we can get all the Pokemon.
Amazing!
Like, this is great. So yeah.
Well, that feels like a good place to wrap up our discussion of A Christmas Story, talking about our personal Red Ryder BB guns. Let's get into the letterbox game. Start to think about what we think the letterbox community thinks of A Christmas Story. We've got some of the most popular reviews. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I was gone last week, so do I have anything to play for at all? I'm mathematically eliminated unless I was 5 points out and I can only get 4.
Yeah, let me look at it here. You are...
And Josh, while he looks, you can... While he looks, you can...
5 points behind. So you are technically mathematically eliminated,
right,
because we only have this episode and the audience pick left to go. Oh, I forgot to mention something.
Well,
guys.
you got to play anyway because you could spoil one of us.
You could
That's true.
spoil. You could spoil.
That's true.
I forgot to mention something, guys, as we get ready for this Letterboxd game. This is our 250th movie review.
No way.
Wow, look at us
Yes.
being old.
Now, we've done more episodes than that because we've done some episodes about other things, but this is our 250th movie that we've reviewed. So anyway,
crazy.
I meant to say that earlier, but I wanted to throw that in there.
Wow.
Beautiful.
That's crazy.
Garrett, you have 10. Josh, you have 10, but Josh has had more direct hits, so he's at 13. He's only 3 behind me, so 2 direct hits, and he wins.
I hate when you do that. You talk about wins. It's all about points. You got me all excited last time I was here. I thought I was tied
It's
with
all
Josh
about
and made a
points.
comeback, and then I was still in
It's all
damn
about
last.
Yeah. Well, you need
You
those.
just
direct-
made
Points
you
do
said,
matter.
"Oh, you're tied." No, we're not. I lost. I failed.
But you-
I didn't do it this year.
You've gotten the same amount correct, but you had less direct hits. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Technically, in that respect, you guys are still behind me 3, so I've already won in that form.
Yeah, shut up.
Because there's only 2 to go. Now, Josh, you got reindeer games right last week.
Yeah, we did have a
Garrett,
good
we missed
time
you for reindeer
destroying reindeer games. That was fun.
It was a lot of
man,
fun. You
I
picked-
think I sent a text to Josh saying I'm really sad I didn't get this shit down that movie's stocking.
Oh, I read it.
So
I read it on the
You
show.
did. I felt so bad, Garrett, because you went through the process of actually watching reindeer games, and then you didn't even get to review it.
I had to pay for it because I was sick and I didn't make it in time to watch it on Netflix. I had to pay money to be even sicker.
Ben Affleck thanks you.
Anyway, so Garrett, you might as well go first since you have nothing to gain, but you have nothing to lose, but everything to gain by ruining it for Josh. or
Excellent.
myself.
Well, let's hear some of these reviews, get an idea of what we're gonna guess with. So again, these are some of the most popular reviews from A Christmas Story on Letterboxd. We've got from Maria, 4 stars. This will be good for you, David. The fuck is up with these kids in these Christmas movies being straight up psychopaths? Silent Dawn says 5 stars. Nothing captures the essence of Christmas like the scene where the dad is struggling and uttering obscenities to himself while decorating the tree. 5 stars, the fucking vibes. 5 stars. It is indeed a story about Christmas. But then you've got 1 star. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And then this interesting
Okay.
one that I've never seen really explained before is 0, like no stars, just a log. How can anyone have an opinion on this movie?
No. Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, that's a.
But they didn't even give it a rating.
Yeah.
No
That's
rating.
Interesting.
Just they're saying, how could you have an opinion? I don't know.
Interesting. Maybe it's because it's a fact that it's a 5-star movie. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. I think that it's gonna go around 3.5. I think Letterboxd is gonna enjoy it well.
Josh.
So I'm gonna go in that same neighborhood with a 3.7.
And I'm gonna say that like a lot of people are, give this movie maybe like an okay review out of the sense of nostalgia, but there's also a lot of people like to just be haters. So I'm gonna say 3.3.
A lot of people just be
What did
haters.
you said? 3.5.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do a Christmas Story 2 if we need a tiebreaker.
Oh gosh. Okay. Here we go. Oh dear, we will unfortunately need a tiebreaker because the score is 3.6, which is dead
but it's a
between me and
tiebreak-
Garrett. Me in second place and him out of contention.
Okay.
We'll be playing for a tie.
Okay, hang on.
No, you still get the points.
What do you mean?
If you win the tiebreaker, you still get a point.
Oh no, I know.
Yeah.
I meant no.
Okay. I got
All
you.
right, here we go. Let me look up. You guys do you want to do a Christmas Story Part 2? We can do something else.
No, that's fine.
I want you to do Christmas Story 2 because there are 2 different sequels and one is a fake one, and I want you to do the fake one.
Oh,
Okay,
perfect.
is the fake one
yeah,
the one
that
that came out in
didn't come out.
2012?
yeah, the old
Yeah.
one is the fake one, not the one that came out
Because
last year.
there's the one oh yeah, there's a Christmas Story Christmas that came out in 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one with
Oh,
the real
gosh.
Ralphie. That's the legit one.
Because I can't guarantee I'm not going to pick that one day. So
Yeah,
I
never seen it,
promise
didn't
you, I
see it.
won't pick A Christmas Story.
This is a
though.
you know what I forgot we didn't even talk about the leg, but the fragile. Oh my gosh! All right,
I know.
okay. Christmas Story 2. I'll read the original traditional 100% red-blooded two-fisted American Christmas continues 5 years later with Ralphie, Randy, Mom, and the old man. This time Ralphie has his eyes fixed on a car, but trouble is sure to follow. I'll read you 2 reviews. One is a half star. Once I saw a pretty graphic photo of a dead body, but this was worse.
Wow.
And then here's 3 stars. Christmas is not a story of hope. It is hope. It's better than the trailer. There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What is the review for A Christmas Story 2, directed by Bryant Levant?
I'm going to give this. I think that those 2 reviews are just outliers. And I'm going to say that the Letterboxd community overall finds this movie to be a 4.8 stars.
Well, that's a bold choice.
Yep.
I don't understand your strategy, but I'm gonna go with 1.9.
Well, we do have a winner. No second tiebreaker needed. Garrett, it's almost like you threw this game because it's a 1.7.
Oh, I was genuinely close too. That's nice.
You were right on it. You were right on it.
Listen.
Wow.
Yeah, 1.7.
David's been talking
so-
about how he wants to win this 2 years in a row. And I don't want that to happen.
That's true. That's fair.
And I
mean,
think I just
it's-
gave Josh a point.
You did. I mean, we didn't even really have to do the tiebreaker. You could have just conceded.
Yeah,
No,
it was
I don't
fun.
go out that way.
Yeah, that's
All right, so-
quitters. Yeah.
So here we go. Okay, we're going into the next week. Our audience pick. Don't even know what we're doing yet. But Josh sits at 14 points. I sit at 16 points.
Ooh,
Josh
it
is
all comes
closer.
down to this.
Now, if Josh is just closer, then he loses. He needs a direct hit to tie to force the ultimate tiebreaker. Maybe something that we will concoct for our year-end review or something like that. Maybe we can do a big finale with something like that. So yeah, there you go.
Okay.
It
Wow.
comes down to this.
Wow.
My
Yep. Gonna have to get.
beautiful trophy that Garrett bought.
Gotta get in the gym. Gotta get trained.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's wrap this puppy up. What are our personal ratings of A Christmas Story? I will start by saying, even though I had some things to nip at, it is a pretty good movie, so I'm gonna go with 3 stars.
I'm gonna be in that neighborhood. I'm gonna give it just a little bit more. I'm gonna give it 3.5. Perfectly good movie. Pretty good
More,
movie.
you're slow.
But if I don't ever watch it again, I won't be sad.
I will watch it every year until the day I die. But it's not perfect. It's a 4 stars. 4-star movie.
Oh, all right. I think that gives us an average of 3.5,
It does.
which
Very
is
exciting.
right there with Letterboxd.
Yep, we love it when that works out pretty close. All right. Well, that is A Christmas Story. We'll be back next week with a surprise pick, the audience pick. We don't know what it
Christmas
is yet.
present from them all.
A Christmas present from you all. So we will figure that out. You can check out our social media accounts, Instagram, So Many Sequels Pod. That's probably where we're going to be posting that information. And of course, we're on Threads and Facebook and TikTok as well. So go check those out. And one more push for our YouTube channel, trying to get to 112. That's the number David chose as his. I don't know why you picked that number, but
Because 12 Days of Christmas.
oh, that's right.
So-
Okay. 12 Days of Christmas. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back next week with our surprise final Christmas pick of the month, our last So Many Santas. Be sure to subscribe to the show, SoManySequels.com, or in your favorite podcasting app. That's all. We'll see you next time.